We're popping in with something special, a behind-the-scenes look at the Fitgenes program. We know the terms like DNA, epigenetics and nutrigenomics can feel new, maybe even a little intimidating. They can seem really complex and unfamiliar, and sometimes, yes, even a little scary. That's why we've created this mini-series to educate, reassure and give you a clear picture of why we're so passionate about genetic testing, why we believe it should be accessible to everyone, and of course, what you'll find inside our Fitgenes program. So let's unlock access to the conversations you'll find inside the program. Enjoy today's episode of the Fitgenes series. Hello, and thank you for joining us. In this video, Lindsay and I are going to discuss a lot of terms, key phrases that you will hear in the Fitgenes program. You'll see these when you receive your test kit and also when you get your report back. So, Lindsay, great to have you here. Let's kick off with some of this, I guess it's sort of grade 9 biology that we all need to do a bit of a review on today.
Yeah, this is something that I think we all should know. Some people think it's too complex, but it's really something that we need to understand because it is literally like the blueprint of how our body works.
Okay, so let's have a look at these terms. We've got DNA, which will break down genes, gene variants, epigenetics, and nutrigenomics.
I know, they're big words, but we can absolutely, on these next couple of slides, we'll be able to break them down for you.
All right, let's get ready. Let's start with DNA.
Yeah, so DNA in its simplest form, like we said before, think of it as a blueprint, a code. It's like a little roadmap for your body to try and develop its way that it's going to get its chemistry to work. So it essentially is the hereditary material that we get from both our mom and dad. Now, the really cool thing about DNA is that we know that it's made up, believe it or not, of only 4 little building blocks. There are these little base chemicals called adenine, thymine, guanine, and cytosine. So you can think of it as ATGC. And believe it or not, all of our body's mechanisms for working are made up by combinations of these 4 different bases.
So like music notes, really, there is only the 4 of them, and any combination of those make up each and every individual.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And believe it or not, just having those 4 can give us such variety from person to person.
Just like music. All right, that's our DNA.
Beautiful. So base pairs. The easiest way to think of this is when you look at that DNA structure, it looks like a little coiled ladder. A base pair is where 2 of those little chemical bases pair up together and form a rung. So think of it as the rung on that DNA ladder.
Right, so you can mix any of those pairs together, A with T, C with G, or A with G and C with T?
Absolutely, and they will form those little rungs that connect both sides of that DNA strand. And depending upon the combination and a section of that DNA, it will be basically a building block for a gene, an expression of how our body works. Genes, like I said, code for proteins, and proteins then cause a phenotype. So the phenotype is the expression of that brown hair or blue eyes or different colored skin. So like I said, it's pretty amazing that just these little combinations can have such variety on how we look and how we act as people.
So what happens when all these rungs connect up to one long ladder, Linz?
Well, this is what forms our whole DNA strand. Now, you want to know a really cool tip is we have DNA in every single cell inside a part called the nucleus. Now, if you were actually to extract that DNA and string it out into a coil, it actually would be 2 meters long, which is mind-blowing in its own essence when you think how small a cell is, but that's because how thin it is. Now, these long DNA strands actually code for more than just one part of our biology. So when we go into our next slide, what we're going to be looking at is a gene. And a gene is a section of that DNA that will code for a protein.
Okay, so here it is here. I see you've stretched it all out there.
It's like I said, it's all coiled and wrapped together. That's the only way you can have something that's 2 meters long actually fit in something that's actually microscopic in a cell. So it is very mind-blowing.
Unbelievable. Running through our veins, running through our body, making up every single little minute millimeter of us. This code is already in there.
Yes, yeah.
So now we have to decode it.
Well, luckily, the Human Genome Project did that around 2003, which is where we actually mapped every single gene in the human physiology, which is a pretty mind blowing part of our science. So we've understood a lot since that time. And now we can look at our genetics as a way of providing us information so that we can be really preventative in our health.
So what happens with the variants? So we used to call them mutations, and now I guess we're calling them variants or SNPs. Where does this occur? Where does the mutation happen?
Yeah, so we know statistically there is common combinations between these four different base chemicals, but every once in a while there will be a slight change in gene coding. And the reason we kind of got out of the word mutation is it kind of had a negative connotation to it, as if it was something terribly wrong. What we do know is that you will get these sort of different base combinations based upon environmental conditions and evolution. So changes in gene coding aren't necessarily bad, but it can give you predispositions for certain health conditions based upon how you live. So you can see in this little diagram, a gene variant will just be a slight change in that coding compared to the majority of the population.
Okay, so when we get our report back from Fitgenes, after we've sent off our swab, the lab has done the tests, we receive this amazing report. To make it as easy for us as possible, we've got the green light, yellow light, and red light system: beneficial, less beneficial, and least beneficial. And this is the easiest way to explain how our genes are actually working in our own body.
Yes, absolutely. So the beneficial side means that little combination between those four pairs are to your benefit. They're not going to affect your health in any way, shape, or form on a negative perspective, potentially. If you are somewhere in that yellow category, less beneficial, that means that you have one gene variant from one of your parents. And if you have something that's in the red section, that means that you have two gene variants from both of your parents. So it just means that you need to pay attention a little bit stronger on the ones that are sort of red for sure, and just be mindful of the ones that are in the yellow.
So this is where epigenetics and nutrigenomics come into play, where we can actually, I guess, not change our DNA, but work more beneficially towards helping our DNA.
The easiest way to think about it is we can't change our DNA because that's our blueprint, that's our code, that's our body's code that's set in stone. We can express it, so we can upregulate it or we can downregulate gene expression based upon how we live. And this is what that term epigenetics means. And that's the really cool thing is that it's not a sign, seal, deliver guarantee. It depends on how you live. And that lifestyle and nutrition is what we call epigenetics, which is really cool because it kind of empowers you to know that you can do things to improve your health and well-being.
And then nutrigenomics?
Yes. So nutrigenomics are the way that nutrition in particular, so what we eat and the chemical compounds that come from our food, our vitamins, our minerals, how they influence this gene expression as well, which we know is one of the most powerful ways to influence your DNA for the better is by what you eat and also what you live. So a really simple term that kind of summarizes this whole element of genetics is, you probably heard that term before, genetics points the gun, environment pulls the trigger. And I like to add a little extra element of that, which is your lifestyle and nutrition potentially can take the bullets out of the gun. So it's a very simple way to recognize is that you will have this blueprint, but based upon your choices, you can have really incredible health.
Okay, so stay tuned because we will break this down from our beneficial, less beneficial, and least beneficial in each of the workbooks and the reports coming up. That is the Fitgenes Program. Stay tuned. We hope you enjoyed today's conversation and that it answered a few more of your questions and perhaps helped you understand why DNA testing is such a powerful tool for your own individual health, because your genes truly are the foundation of your health. If you're ready to begin your DNA discovery, visit theagingproject.com and sign up for our free DNA webinar. It is the perfect place to start. Thank you so much for listening. Stay well, and I'll talk to you soon.